Hi everyone and welcome to the fourth round of questions. A few of you seem to quite like the Quentin Blake wallpaper in this room, so we're back amongst it for today. Opening, what makes a good race car? There's a big misconception to deal with on this one to start with. It does not need to be fast. It needs to be competitive, sure. You're going to have a difficult time if you find the car's vastly slower than the competition. But does it need to be outright fire-breathing quick? No, absolutely not. One of the most entertaining cars I've driven was a Citroen 2CV race car with all of 45 horsepower when it was in good trim, which it has to be said it often wasn't. But the way the thing felt and the way it drove was immensely satisfying. To me, there's nice to haves in there for sure. The way the thing looks is important. I don't think it needs to be beautiful, but I think it needs to feel like an event. I need to be able to romanticise a little bit about the car when I see it in the pit lane, and I do get that with my own car still. That's important. And also the sound. Again, doesn't need to be expressive of fast power or anything, but it needs to sound right. It needs to sound like it's trying, to me. Because a lot of the time going down the straights, that's the main thing you're sensing. You have a quick look at gauges and figure out, make sure the car's okay and have a look at where competitors are around you, but the main input to you going down the straights is the sound of the engine. And that to me needs to be something which is pulling me along. But most of all is in the handling. I touched a little bit on it on the second round with the aerial atom. For me, I need a race car to feel fundamentally like it's on my side and like it's giving me options mid-corner. And what I mean by that is, often if you're always operating at or around grip limit, right, in corners, otherwise you're not going to be quick. But what I find with some cars is, whether fundamentally or just from the way they're set up, on turning in, sometimes you get this impression that that's just the line that car's taking. It just feels like everything's pivoting around the outside front tyre and you haven't really got any options available to you unless you accept going slower, which frankly isn't high on my priority list of things to do. If it's right, if a car feels good to me, then the moment I turn in, it feels on its toes and like I have options available to me, you know. If someone starts trying to slot up the inside of me, I'm able to move around. I'm able to trim the line by lifting a bit of throttle. I'm able to push the car wide by adding a little. It needs to feel like it's up on its toes and like all four tyres are doing their roles and like options are open to me. That is how, for me, you end up with a good race car, something that gives you flexibility mid-corner. That's the fundamental for me. Following on from it, what's going to break on your good race car? What spares should you plan to bring? It's very specific on the car. A lot of road drive cars, there are known weak points. Front-wheel drive cars do chew drive shafts and CV joints quite often, I'm told. I've done drive shafts even on my rear-wheel drive BMW, so that's something, because they're often hard to find at short notice. Always have spare brakes, because you never know whether, even if you've got loads of wear life left, you never know if you're going to pick up a bit of gravel between a disc and pad and wreck both, or something like that. Spare wheel bolts, always good, they're under a lot of stress. Spare wheels, sometimes you will crack or buckle wheels, that can happen as well. And wheel bearings, because if you're dropping off curbs or even just running sawtooth curbs, they take a lot of abuse, and on a lot of road cars they simply aren't designed for that. So really anything that's getting extra stick through circuit use, be it through temperature or through the harsher inputs that the circuit's giving you, plan for that. Body panels and such like really aren't necessary in club racing. People can't afford to be bouncing off cars all the time and damaging each other's cars, so that's uncommon. And if you do, to be honest, a hammer is as good as an entire spare set of body panels just to get the car running again. Talk about times where competitors have surprised you. What did you learn from them? I did this one in two parts. One's in performance terms, and I did my first couple of seasons on not true race tyres, like track day tyres, a bit harder, a bit cheaper and a bit longer wearing, and then on part one, full race tyres. So stuff that was there or thereabouts, but not at ultimate pace, and just visibly seeing the performance of a really nicely set up car on really good tyres. I could be following someone and on turning, their car would just do things that were outside the physics I was used to, That taught me a lot of, this is how fast you can go within these regulations. But the other and the biggest thing, and the key word here is where competitors have surprised me, is just in the spirit of club racing. My very first meeting, I got there the night before. The chap I was sharing a garage with, who I've seen I think nearly every meeting since then, a guy called Steve Hewson, been racing a number of years with, and had a headcase supercharged Peugeot 106 there with him. Saw me floating around looking like I didn't know quite which way was up, and just talked me through everything I needed to know, talked me through what to do next, how the day was going to go, and all of that. It was just really reassuring in a way that he simply didn't need to be. The spirit of motorsport family in trying to bring everyone along and help everyone get out there and race is fantastic. But I think the best example of it was at Cadwell in 2017. I had an exhaust mount fail, so the whole back end of the exhaust is hanging off the car, dragging on the circuit in qualifying. Needless to say that the marshals noticed it, stopped us. The steward said, "Okay, you can't go out again until it's fixed." With the race around 2.5 hours away, didn't have any spare mounts, but our key competitors, Adam Chafer and his family, who were set up next to us in the paddock, are helping out with tools and parts and looking under the thing, giving ideas, lending me stuff, trying to figure out how to get the car back together again so that we can race it, so that we can go and compete against them. You know, I'd qualified faster than their car, and they were potentially giving away an easy win by helping me get out there. But that wasn't the point. It wasn't about the result. They wanted to be able to have me out there so that they could race against me, and that was just the most brilliant feeling of pulling together in this close-knit community. So where competitors have surprised me most, I think, is that just in this wonderful spirit that we all seem to share. I've got more written down. Time again. More on Monday. But thanks, guys, and please do keep these coming. Really enjoying it. Thanks a lot.